Chair of the Arlington Zoning Board, also known as the Board of Zoning Appeals, or BZA. Serving with me are 4 other citizens from the county. We are appointed by the Circuit Court. The other members of the board include Vice Chair Monica Craven, Charles Smith, who's to my right, Terry Russell, also to my right, and Judy Freshman. Also present this evening are the professional staff, our Deputy Zoning Administrator, Andrew Noxon, who is also the Secretary to the Board of Zoning Appeals, our Zoning Administrator, Norma Cozart, and Clifton Hogan. And I did it again. Sure. I need to put this in my notes so that I don't forget. And Ms. Williams. I mentioned Cliff. I did mention Cliff. Before we start this evening, I'd also like to take a moment of personal privilege and reflection, as we were notified this week that the former Deputy Zoning Administrator, who worked with many of us for a long period of time, passed away. So as we begin the meeting this evening, I'd like to remember in a special way Tony Michael Burnett, who did a wonderful job for us for many years. He passed away last week, succumbing to his fight against cancer, and there will be a memorial service for him on this coming Saturday. Okay. We, as I said, welcome all of you to the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. To avoid disruptions, I ask you to do what I just did, which is turn off your phone or any noisemakers, put it into silent mode so that you're not going to disturb the proceedings. As the beginning of the meeting, we always provide the information about what the board has authority to do. The powers of the board are prescribed by the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county's zoning ordinance, which is adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the county board. The board does have the authority to do 3 things. We can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements for structures on 1- and 2-family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. We can grant variances from the specific requirements of a zoning ordinance, and we can decide appeals of the decisions of the zoning administrator. When approving use permits, the BZA may impose conditions that it deems necessary in the public interest, including limiting the duration of the use permit. In order to approve a use permit, the law requires that the board find that the proposal meet conditions and that the use permit will not first, adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood. Second, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood. And third, will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plans and land use and zoning-related policies of the county. To do this, the BZA considers whether the modification will promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhood because the structure's overall footprint size and placement are similar to the structures on the property surrounding the lot in question, and whether the modification will help preserve the natural landform, historical features, and/or significant trees and foliage. When granting variances, the board must determine that the strict application of the ordinance would produce undue hardship, that the hardship is not generally shared by other properties in the same zoning district, and that the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property, and that the character of the district will not be changed by granting of the variance. A Virginia court ruling from the Supreme Court requires that a variance cannot be granted unless the effect of the zoning ordinance, as applied to the piece of property under consideration, would, in the absence of a variance, interfere with all reasonable beneficial uses of the property taken as a whole. A very high burden. When deciding appeals, these are appeals of decisions by the zoning administrator. The board must determine if the administrator acted correctly. So those are the 3 kinds of cases that we do have on the docket tonight. We'll begin, and what we'll do is ask the staff to call the case. They will provide a brief staff report, and a recommendation will be given. Following that, Board members will ask any questions of the staff that they may have, and then we ask the applicants or their representatives to come forward, and they are given an opportunity to make comments to support their application or appeal. If they choose to make a comment, they must come forward to the podium so their comments can be recorded for the record. Next, all the speakers for an item will be called. Speakers must fill out a speaker slip, and this is for everybody except for those people who are the applicants, which is available on the table in the front. And I have a few speaker slips, so I hope everybody who wants to speak has filled one out. You must fill out the speaker slip before we begin discussion on the item that's coming before us. The board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points, and then the board questions any of the speakers, but does not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questioning of others. We have deemed the following time limits for speakers to be sufficient: 5 minutes for applicants for use permits and variances, for appeals 20 minutes for appellants or their agents, and for use permits, variances, and appeals, we have deemed 3 minutes for representatives of organizations and 2 minutes for individuals as a sufficient time period. After the board has gathered all the information, then we will engage in a discussion of the case. Once the discussion is complete, the board decides the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. On the front table, you'll find copies of the staff report for each case that is coming before us this evening. If you've not seen the staff report directly related to your case, I ask that you get a copy and review it before your case is called. After your case is heard, you are welcome to stay for the balance of the session, or you can leave at your convenience. Thank you for being here this evening. Mr. Knoxon, if you'll call the first case.
Thank you and good evening. Our first case tonight is a deferral. This is case number V-10788-13-APP-1. This is an appeal by Jewel Associates, LLC, of a violation notice and subsequent tickets issued by the Zoning Division relating to various approved conditions of site plan number 377. It's in an MUVS zoning district, premises known as 3409 Wilson Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Knoxon. Any questions of Mr. Knoxon and staff? If there are none, I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer the subject appeal to the August 8, 2013 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Having none, the motion carries. Mr. Knoxon.
All right, our next case tonight is V-10790-13-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Mark Lukens to permit a setback of 6.9 feet to the steps, 7.8 feet to the eave, and 8.7 feet to the porch base from the 20th Street South right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, and also 7.8 feet to the steps, 8.4 feet to the eave, and 9.6 feet to the porch base from the South Hayes Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. It's for the replacement of existing front and right side porches. It's in the R5 zoning district, premises known as 801 20th Street South.
Thank you. Any questions of the staff? If there are none, Mark Lukens, or is it John Shell representing Mr. Lukens? At this matter? No, sorry, wrong case.
That's 790, you did it.
No, it's the right, 790? Thought these were the same. Just the one. So is anyone here to speak in favor of this matter? I believe, is that Michael Trejos, manager? You want to come forward?
Good evening. My name is Dr. Michael Trejos. I'm the manager of Adams Enterprises 1 LLC, which is the current owner of the property at 805 South 20th Street. I come in conditional support of this amendment, and if you could leave that frame up there, you'll see what I'm about to speak about. In addition to the issues of the porches, I wish the BZA to note that in addition to those structures that had been built without proper permit, also there has been a significant retaining wall built on the west side in front of that structure, and I will pass around these land plots. Which shows a significant encroachment onto that property as part of the overall apparent improvements that were done to the structure. Now, I am standing here in conditional support in that one of two options we are requesting. One, that the special use permit be conditional upon both we as 805 and working with the owners of 801 and 803 come to a mutual resolution of this encroachment. However, should the Board of Zoning Appeals determine that this matter is not within your purview, we understand and we would not uphold the use permit. But however, we would request that in your formal records that it is made noted that we have approached you with this significant encroachment and that we had requested that the BZA deal with this encroachment, but that the BZA has determined that it is not within their purview, and then we can then proceed forward with the appropriate resolution as we deem fit.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lucan?
Madam Chair, I do have one question of the speaker. Can you describe what discussions you've had heretofore with 801?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We have not had any discussions, and I only just, unfortunately, became aware of this use permit, actually, of it 2 days ago. And so we have had no opportunity to speak. And again, this is why I am saying in a conditional manner, I don't want to feel as though we are disagreeing with the original use permit for the porches. That's not what we're saying here. What we are saying is that we want the BZA to be aware that in addition to the porches having been constructed, there was additional construction also made that was not in conformance and that was not done with appropriate permits. And so that being said, I was stating that I would like to request that the use permit be granted in conditional upon the appropriate resolution between the parties of this encroaching wall. However, again, should the BZA determine that it is not within your purview, we do not want to uphold up the use permit, but we simply want it in the record that we have come forth before you, that the matter has been addressed before you, and that you have determined it's not in your purview, and we can then proceed forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Trejos. Is Mark Lukens here, or representative? I think that's the problem. We can't really have that discussion with him because he's not here. Mr. Noxon, do you have any information with regard to this individual? I know we have another case, but...
I do not. I believe Skylar Aarons was a contractor for the project, and he knew of the upcoming meeting. They wanted to go last month, but had to get an updated plat, so they knew to come this month. And I haven't had any discussion with him in the last 2 weeks, probably. He's been here for other use permits before, so he knows to come in and represent the client.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Russell.
was that the only speaker?
I-
Well, then, I might say that the fact that the speaker has spoken, it is on record with us now. It's on record with the BZA because our meetings are recorded. And I would suggest, since the applicant is not here, that we might defer this item for a month, given the opportunity to come forward, and that we not speculate on any of these issues at this time. Therefore, I make a motion that we defer it to August 8th, 2013.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. It's been seconded by Ms. Freshman. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The matter will be deferred until the August 8th meeting. So that will give you some time to potentially talk to him and let him know of your issues. And alternatively, you can also always report those kinds of issues to the Board of Zoning, to the Zoning Administrator's office, and they will investigate that as a separate issue. Thank you.
Our next case is V-10808-13-UP-1. This is a use permit request by John and Karen Middleton to permit a setback of 5.5 feet from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new screen porch with steps. This is in the R10 zoning district on a premises known as 2902 24th Street North.
And the recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution approving the subject use permit with conditions. Are John or Karen Middleton present? Okay, we can sit for just a second. I just thought before we got into that, I'd make sure that they were here since I didn't do that the first case. All right, first we'll ask any questions of the staff. Does the board have any questions of the staff? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Middleton, if you want to come forward at this point. You want to tell us about your project?
This one?
I think you're good.
Okay. I'm John Middleton, and I'm glad to be here tonight, and I thank you for hearing our proposal. What I'd like to say about this little house that we are the current custodian of, it's had many custodians in the past who've fixed and improved and made it fit into our lovely little dead-end lane neighborhood up in Woodmont, that we have had a lot of support from the zoning board staff and expert advice, and we've done our best to come in with a proposal that basically fits a screen porch where the deck is and gets no closer to the adjacent property and actually no farther. And we've asked for and received letters of support from our neighbors on both sides, and I think they're in the proposal, as well as from the Woodmont Association.
Yes, those are all in the packet.
I think that's all in there, I hope so.
Yep, it's all here.
So we're looking forward, hopefully, to you agreeing with this. We believe it will continue to build on what was once a two-room cottage with a kitchen in 1927 and is now a substantial dwelling and a beautiful one. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have anything further?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Smith.
I would just say that, given the odd shape of this lot and the efforts by the applicant to design a structure that minimizes the encroachment, gives me no pause, and therefore, if it's appropriate, I'd move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit V-10808-13-UP1, subject to the conditions which are listed in the resolution.
Oh, wait, I did have, what's the one? That one I have? No. The numbers this month are crazy. Okay, but it says 13.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Freshman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Here's the applicant for 801, actually.
Ah.
Do we wish to defer that to the end of the meeting instead of August? The applicant for the first case, Lukens, is here.
Oh,
We'd have to do a new motion.
and the speaker left.
Oh, okay.
We could tell him on the speaker.
Yeah.
Speakers left.
But the speaker was conditionally in favor of this, it would be addressing the other part of the issue. I mean, Mr. Lukens? Let me just let you know that procedurally we've deferred this matter to the August 8th meeting since you weren't here when the case was called.
Yes, I apologize. I got hung up with some nationals people on the corner over there. It's blocking traffic for some reason at the hard times. So I do apologize. It is a very simple case. It's not a request to enlarge any structure. They're both existing structures. It's literally just the floor surface of the existing structure. I didn't know.
Yeah. I need you to do a speaker slip if you wouldn't mind, just for the record. Okay,
First,
great.
yes, I apologize.
That's okay. Let me just,
Going to the end of the list if that's whatever is best for the board.
the only issue is we did have a speaker who was present for that case, and he raised an issue not to do with the current use permit, but with another structure that's located on the property,
Okay.
the retaining wall. And so he asked that we have that be addressed. The chair would entertain a motion to bring this back forward to the end of the meeting, but, I don't know if I would get that motion. I think you may end up having to come back in August.
I understand. Okay. I don't know what the retaining wall has to do with those, but I understand.
It doesn't really have anything, but because we let the speaker know that we were deferring this till August, I think, and he's already left, and he conditionally actually, it was in favor of the use permit, so I don't think that this is that's ultimately an issue in the case.
Okay.
But I guess because we gave him notice that we were deferring the matter, it's the desire of the board to stick with that
I understand,
public
and I apologize.
determination.
And I do apologize. I completely understand, so thank you very much.
Well, and thank you, and we're sorry. Traffic happens, and we understand. We didn't deny it.
Okay, our next case tonight is V-10809-13-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Sean Norton to permit a setback of 7 feet to the right side property line instead of 10 feet as required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 12.9 feet instead of 18 feet is required. So the construction of a new rear screen porch with landings and steps is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 4018 9th Street South.
Okay. And the recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution approving the subject use permit with conditions. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, I'd ask if Sean Norton is present.
This is the applicant I emailed you all about, but I guess he's here. All right.
Wow, you made it back into town. Or are you representing Mr. Norton? No, I am Mr. Norton. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what to say. Do you just want me to explain what the project is?
You don't even necessarily need to say that. If there's anything you want to share with us about the project, you're free to do so. As I indicated, the staff has recommended approving your use permit.
Oh, great. Okay. I'm just looking forward to being able to enjoy the lush outdoors without being eaten alive by mosquitoes. So this would be a great asset to the property, I think.
Okay. Any questions? Again, your house is situated fairly close to the lot line on one side, it looks like.
Yep. Yeah, actually right through on the previous picture. It's actually right through the woods on the other side. So you can kind of see a little bit of the brown off on the left-hand side.
Are there speakers?
No, we have no speakers on this matter. Yep, I'm ready for a motion.
Okay. I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit 10809-13-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Freshman.
Second.
I'm going to give that to Ms. Cravens. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Norton.
Our next case is V-10810-13-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Mark and Melissa Seidman to permit a setback of 2.8 feet to the eave and 3.1 feet to the wall of a new dormer addition from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required, and also 4.9 feet to the eave and 5.5 feet to the wall of a new 2-story rear addition from the left side property line instead of 10 feet as required. And finally, an aggregate side yard of 7.7 feet instead of 18 feet as required. This is for the construction of a new 2nd-story dormer addition, above an encroaching right side garage, and also a new 2-story rear addition. This is in the R6 zoning district at 1145 North Illinois Street.
Thank you, Mr. Noxon. And the recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution approving the subject use permit with conditions. Any questions of staff? I can take a moment just to say one of the reasons that we can move through some of these cases quickly is that we have some excellent packets before us that we do receive in advance and have reviewed. This is an example of one that's well put together, all of the designs. But are Mark and Melissa Seidman here? Want to come forward?
Good evening. I'm Mark Seidman. Thank you for hearing our proposal. We wrote a short statement that I can
Thank you.
pass out.
Okay, thank you.
I'm, of course, happy to answer any questions that you have, but generally we're essentially asking for two, we're proposing 2 additions. One is a relatively modest addition on the right side of the house. There's a 3rd bedroom is over the garage and has a steep roof line on both sides. And in order to extend that bedroom, we propose adding a dormer to the back, which would extend the floor space and add some windows, as well as on the left side of the house. There's currently the previous owners put an addition on the upstairs bathroom that kind of overhangs the patio, and we propose to extend that addition a little bit and take away the overhang by extending the kitchen underneath it as well. And we don't intend to dramatically increase the footprint of the house, and the footprint won't get any closer to our neighbors. And we've spoken to all of our neighbors about it, and they've all been supportive. There's actually one signed letter from our neighbor to the left that I don't think was included in the packet. I have copies of that letter here, so I can pass that. We appreciate your time and consideration.
Okay, any questions?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Smith?
this is one of those cases that the changes in the zoning ordinance was made for that gave us the ability to grant use permits when you have a house that sits on a substandard lot. The lot is too narrow, and it's substandard in area. And so the zoning ordinance allows us to grant use permits when those conditions exist, and this is, as the applicant has stated, not any increase really in the footprint. So therefore, Madam Chair, I'd move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving the resolution granting use permit V-10810-13-UP1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Craven. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Can I make a comment, please?
Yes.
This is a wonderful packet. I love the photographs from the backyard, because even though we can go to the front, we really don't want it drapes around people's backyards. So this is really, really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
The next case tonight is case number V-10811-13-VA-1. This is a variance request by Ellen Bohan and Michael Painter to permit a total lot coverage of 35% instead of 32% as required. This is for the replacement of an existing rear screen porch. This is in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 1412 20th Street South.
And the recommendation here is to adopt the attached resolution approving the variance. Any questions of staff?
Yes. Although I'm not sure that you can actually answer this, but when this chart was created, I was part of this, and I vaguely remember all of the discussions that went on and on and on, but shouldn't something like this that's just replacement be grandfathered in? Wouldn't that have made good sense? It's not adding anything, it's just replacing.
They have the clause under nonconformities, which was the old section 35, but you have to build it in the same footprint and same height as it was before. And what they're doing is actually modifying the roof pitch. So they're changing the height of it, and that's what got them in trouble.
Okay.
A flat roof could have had them, had it replaced easily. So.
Okay, good. So there is that grandfather clause. Thank you.
Good question. Are Ellen Bowen or Michael Painter present? Want to come forward?
Good evening. Thank you for hearing our proposal. And I'd also like to thank the zoning office staff. This whole process has been something totally new to my husband, Todd, and I, or Michael Todd. And they were very helpful in explaining and answering every gazillion questions we had. So I just wanted to thank you guys for that. We just, in the way of background, we purchased our home about a year ago, March 2012, and loved it and still love it. And then 3 months after we moved in, the derecho storm hit. We got to know our neighbors really well because 4 different neighbors' trees fell into our property. And there were some pictures in there with him standing in the middle of the trees. Kind of a nightmare, but everyone was healthy and safe, but not so much for our porch. And fence and window and some other things. But we didn't know anything about zoning, lot coverage, or any of these things until we hired a contractor, went about the permitting process, and then learned that our lot was, that we would be over our coverage, and that we had, in fact, an undersized lot, apparently by about half of what an R10 is supposed to be comprised of. And so, long story short, talked to other contractors about possibly repairing the structure, but it's just not safe the way it is. And so we really wanted to put a sturdier roof. And so to answer the question about the pitch, it's maybe that much of a pitch difference, but it'll be sloped, and it'll help the rainwater run off and not leak. And we'll have proper roofing materials, shingles, instead of the fiberglass, which leaks and blows off, we learned, in storms. So we appreciate you hearing our case, and we hope that we'll be able to rebuild it. And like the previous gentleman that spoke, our main goal in this is to escape the mosquitoes in Arlington Ridge are just...
I did have one question. So will your new roof follow from the existing roof line, and is that the pitch? So will it join to the, on this picture, will it just keep going off of the current roof?
In that picture, you can see it's the current structure sits underneath
Right.
the roof there, and so instead it'll go just above it, and it'll be sistered
It won't
in.
join it, but it will go above it so that, and then will you have something to divert water in between?
Yeah, the slope will then, it'll slope enough that the water would be diverted to the edge, and so they're going to redo the gutters. And when we purchased the home, we purchased it with the understanding that we had about a 3-year shelf life on our roof. And so depending on how this goes, we may re-roof at the same time. I don't know. But they use the term sistering. I don't, where they would mesh those two, I guess. We talked about doing an A-line or other roof pitch, and but that we thought that wasn't really in the spirit of what we have. We don't want to expand or go beyond what we have or take advantage of a bad situation. We just want to rebuild really as closely as possible to what we have, but nicer and safer. So I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Are there any other questions? If none, we have no other speakers on this matter. Motion?
Ready for a motion? Yes. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving variance V10811-13-VA-1, subject to the following conditions, of which it doesn't, subject to the following, okay, which is on the next page, that there are 4 different things to, I guess they're conditions, even though that word is never used.
Second.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? Motion carries. Stay right there a minute, though.
Oh, I know I have another one.
Say, when we do a variance, then we have to accompany that with a use permit.
Yes.
So the one doesn't give you permission to do the others. So, Mr. Noxon.
You want me to mention anything about?
Now, let him call the case first.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
You can stay right there, but
Okay.
Okay, next case is also associated with the variance. This is a use permit V-10811-13-UP-1. Use permit request by Ellen Bohan and Michael Painter to permit a setback of 9 feet to the eave and 10 feet to the wall from the right side property line instead of 16 feet as required, and 20 feet to the eave and 21 feet to the wall from the rear property line instead of 25 feet as required, and also an aggregate side yard of 17.7 feet instead of 24 feet as required. And this is for the replacement of an existing rear screen porch. It's in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 1412 20th Street South.
and the recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution approving the use permit. Questions?
Madam Chair, I'll just say the use permit can't cover lot coverage, and that's why we had the variance first. Now, the use permit is for setbacks, the rear yard setback.
And as pointed out by Ms. Craven, this is a situation where, had you built exactly identical, that would be grandfathered in, and you wouldn't have to deal with that. But because you're changing the roof, this is where it becomes important.
Motion?
Yes?
Having said that, Madam Chair,
I think Ms.
I
Freshman.
think that, yeah, okay.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving use permit V-10811-13-UP-1, subject to the following 4 conditions in the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And this will be a good time to mention that in both of the variance and the use permit, we talk about conditions. In each of the packages and with each approval, there are conditions that must be met and that you must build in accordance with those conditions to maintain the use permit that you received. If you vary from those things, the authority that we've given you to exercise use permit would become void. So make sure you take those packets with you and make sure your builders know to build within the conditions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Enjoy that screened-in porch.
Okay, our next case is V-10812-13-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Mark and Jennifer Maynardi to permit a setback of 1 foot to the eave and 2 feet to the wall of a new 1 1/2 story detached storage shed from the rear property line instead of 10 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new 1 1/2 story storage shed. It's in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 1827 North Underwood Street.
And the recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution denying the subject use permit. An alternative resolution has been provided should the BZA decide to grant the use permit request. And we do have speakers for this case as well, just to let everybody know. Questions? And this is the one also we received a replacement, right, Mr. Noxon?
Yes, there was a typo in the resolution that has been corrected.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I want to ask the staff a couple of questions about the lot. Is there a curb cut in the area where they'd like to place this structure?
I do not believe there is one.
Curbs?
On that side? Is there? Okay.
Okay,
We'll get that on the record when you come up to speak in just a minute.
thank you.
Anything else of staff? If not, are Mark and Jennifer, and/or Jennifer Minardi?
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Maynardi, and
Thank you.
I want to give you a little background. When we purchased our home 24 years ago, one of the things that drew us to this neighborhood was how unique and eclectic it is. Every house is different, as you can see from up there. There are many styles, sizes, and vintages. Our house will be 100 years old next year. The house next to us was built in the 50s, and currently a new house is being built next to it. The buildings behind them and garages and sheds vary just as much. And Mark just gave you a picture that shows some of the variations that we have just in our couple of blocks. Another reason we liked the property we bought was its large flat yard. We were looking for a yard where we could set up a volleyball net and still have room for cookouts. And over the years, we've enjoyed playing volleyball, hosting neighborhood and family cookouts, having football games with our sons, enjoying having moon bounces, inflatable water slides, doing fireworks shows, etc. in our yard. Our boys are a little older now, and 2 are in college, and some of those activities occur way less frequently, but we still enjoy using our property and the square flat area that we have. Our 7,300 square foot lot is modest, and our request to add this shed will result in a 25% lot coverage. We wish to make the best possible use of the other 75% of our lot, being able to use it for landscaping and a lawn that we can enjoy and use. And for us, that seems to make sense then to put the shed in the back corner of the lot. If you can see, there's a little tiny metal shed that we put in right after we bought the house that's falling apart. But according to the regulation, the 10-foot setback would make a no man's land then at the back of our yard that we could not see from the house as far as what would be behind that. And it's a waste of valuable property in our view. It's difficult for us to see what any kind of positive purpose or use we could put for that land. And being close to the metro and the bike path, there have been incidents in our neighborhood in the past. The house behind us is recently built, but when it was vacant, we witnessed individuals coming from the metro on multiple occasions, urinating in the yard and going back behind the part of wooden fence and things that were back there. And we certainly don't want to create a private area that would be a target for similar behavior. Also, we have a small dog, and the idea of having an area that's 10 feet from behind that we can't see from the house seems like a hazard to us, too, for any wildlife or other things, which we do have in our neighborhood. We do have raccoons and other things going on. So anyway, it just doesn't seem like that blocking that off is a use of valuable property. So we're asking that we be able to put the shed in the corner.
And I think what I passed out were some of the pictures that we actually did independently of the board's report here showing some of those. And yes, most of all those were prior to 1950. And unfortunately, I guess that's the zoning ordinance. But I guess you all can't see this, and I didn't think that to make that. But living on a corner lot, you know, we have double restrictions. We have 25 foot from the front street and 25 foot from the side street. We're not requesting an encroachment on the 25 foot. We'd be fine with that. And I guess if you can see this, really, this white piece of our, here in the picture, is all that's by right buildable on our property. So that's why we need to come to the board and ask that. So we're just asking if we could, you know, we can see the 25 foot, and we don't want to do that because for us, it makes the most sense to have it in the back corner, and then that way we can play in our yard and do that. If we switch the shed or we do that, then we're pushing more towards 19th Street, which is a busy street because of the rail lot at the corner. So that gets a lot of traffic. You hit the bowl in the street. I mean, we're just trying to make the most use of our lot as we could. And I guess in the package, you'll see a picture of the shed that we were wanting to purchase. And as you mentioned, Mr. Smith, or asked, while it does have a door on the side there to lift up if we want to take things in and out, but the idea is no, it will never become a garage. It's not meant for that. There is no curb cut there. We're not looking for it. In fact, it has a wood floor, so it would never become a garage.
That's really more for the purpose of getting lawnmowers and bicycles and things like that in and out easily.
And the idea is we went around to the immediate neighbors and asked their approval, presented this to them and let them know, and if they agreed with us or not. And yes, and the three people on our list are indeed the immediate
side
of us and the rear behind us, and then the fellow across the street, same corner as us, because the
on
surrounding...
19th Street, across 19th Street.
Yeah, this fellow right here. Because the next two houses that are diagonal to our property are rental properties, and their owners are out of state. And then, again, across the way as a rental property. Across the street was recently sold, and the owner's not available. And so diagonal to our back corner where this would go is also under construction now and will be used as a rental property. So we approached the three immediate affected, and they all agreed that they would like that, and especially the people behind us, because they'd be saying the same thing. If they ever wanted to put a garage up in their yard, what would they need to do? And then there'd be a 20-foot chasm between the two for what reason we avoid there. So we were asking that, and then we do have one speaker that will come, and Mark is 2 doors down down the street. He's building a new house there, and he's already lives in the neighborhood on Van Buren Street, 1 street over. So we are asking that the board reconsider staff's recommendation.
Any questions?
I have several questions. The existing shed is going to be removed?
Yes, ma'am, that's
because you're going to put it in that location. Second question, if this is a shed, what is the loft, the purpose of the loft?
For us, it's storage, because it's a wooden frame shed, and we, as I said, our house will be 100 years old. There's no attic. There's almost no closets in our house. It would be just some storage for us to have.
Almost like a second attic kind of thing.
First attic for us, but yes.
There'll be, I mean, there's no living space in it if that's what you're leading to, because if we do anything, I'd run an extension cord from the back where it won't have electricity. So it's not that it would ever be used as living space either, no.
Oh, it doesn't have electricity?
No, ma'am.
No, it's just a shed.
What they see on this model here in the lot are actually solar lights on this shed.
Oh. I have to say, the photograph makes this thing look huge. But then when I looked at the size of it, it's the same size as my living room.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's it. Our house isn't that large to begin with. And
So, and it's cute. I mean, it's a cute little.
It's ornate, which makes it look,
And it's tall.
and it's tall. It has a steep
The footprint
pitch.
is just really,
Pitch and the little dormer.
14 by 22. I think I had the same impression. I'm looking at these pictures going, that's pretty big. And then you see 14 by 22, it's not that big.
yeah.
Not that big. It's bigger than the metal one that's there, but
Those are usually 10 by 10, right?
that one's only 6 by 8, which
Small
is
car.
just
Really?
Very small car.
So it'll double
It's
your
it looks like
storage
a
at
barn.
least.
It actually does, like a
and with the
paddock
loft,
where
have
you
some
put-
places to put some things, like the kids' stuff when they come home for the summer from college.
which is now in the living room.
They're ponies, yeah, they're ponies.
Any other questions? If not, we'll call Mark Carey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Carey.
Thank you very much. As Mark said, I live in the neighborhood. I've lived in Arlington since 1990, in this neighborhood since 2001. My family and I live at 1805 North Van Buren, which is 1 street over, but we bought a property 2 doors down from the main Arties a couple of years ago, and we're building a house there, so we're going to be close. I mean, my main view is that this shed, which seems like a reasonable thing to do to me, would actually look better closer to the back lot line than it would farther away from the back lot line. You know, I walk along 19th Street frequently, which is about the only place the thing is going to be visible from. And, you know, it's just, given the way the vegetation is and the way the surrounding houses are and their substructures, I think it's just going to fit into the lot better. Also, I came down to speak because some years ago, another neighbor, Tony Alexis, got a variance to build a house on a corner lot that impinged into one of the 25-foot setbacks. His alternative was to build one of the 17-foot houses, which was recently built in the neighborhood. And neighbors came down to speak then. I think the board made the right decision. Tony's house looks good, added to the neighborhood. The 17-foot house looks kind of funny. And so, you know, again, I think the shed would look kind of funny if it was sitting more in the middle of the yard. It'll look good if it's close to the back. Thank you very much. Be glad to take questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Madam Chairman?
Yes,
I have
Ms.
a
Russell.
question of staff.
Yes.
On an interior lot, could you be within 1 foot of the,
Correct.
it's just a peculiarity of the corner lot.
Exactly.
That an accessory building can't encroach into the required rear yard. Is it a rear yard or is it a side yard?
It's a rear yard.
It's a rear yard. Okay.
Okay.
Would you like a motion? I'd be glad to make one.
Thank you.
I think that this is another one of the peculiarities of corner lots. If you were on an interior lot, you could be within 1 foot. So their interior lot neighbors can have a shed in the back, all the way back, and they can't. And I think that alone, or maybe even being on a corner lot, is justification for a use permit. I say that facetiously, but we all know what we need.
It's a lot of our workload. I think you're right.
Yes, they're difficult. They're difficult. So with that, I would move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the alternative resolution to approve the request subject to the conditions in the alternative resolution, that case number being V1081213 UP-1.
And as the owner of a corner lot, I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Ms. Cravens and Mr. Russell. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Enjoy your, I think I want to come and see that shed when it's done. See what it looks like. Good.
Well, and Madam Chairman, I ask, I mean, it's going to be brought, practically assembled. It's going to be trucked in and then set down, right?
Trucked in and set, yes, sir.
Yeah. It'll be quick.
Great. Thank you very much.
Once the site work is done.
Okay. Our next case tonight is V-10813-13-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Thomas and Christine Risdell to permit a setback of 1 foot from the left side property line instead of 10 feet as required, and also an aggregate side yard of 10 feet instead of 18 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new left side carport. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2223 North Lexington Street.
And the recommendation is to adopt the attached alternative resolution denying the subject use permit for a 1 foot left side yard, but approving a setback of 5 feet. There is an alternative resolution that has been provided should the BZA decide to grant the use permit as it was originally requested and advertised. So, any questions of staff on this one?
I have a question. The report indicates that if you approved a setback of 5 feet, that there would still be a 9 foot carport, which is considered acceptable. Does that have a problem for the side entrance?
Let's see.
It's hard for me to, when I looked at it, especially because the vehicle was there as it is in the photo, to really be able to tell whether or not it wasn't just the vehicle, but access.
Not really sure. That's a pretty wide vehicle they have, so it could
Yeah.
cause a problem. It's possible.
Okay, thank you.
For the passenger, that is.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? If not, are Thomas or Christine Risdall present? Risdall or Rysdall? Risdall, I got it right, okay.
Good evening. It's a pleasure for me to discuss our application with you, and I too want to commend staff for the 110% professional approach they took to helping us put this package together. If they had a question, they'd pick up the phone, and if I had a question, I'd pick up the phone, and there was never anything that was unclear on either end of the discussion in putting this application together. I have with me a couple of my neighbors, James Rosso and Karen Billings, who live in the lot to the left of me there, which is the adjoining property line, and Stephen Fuchs, who lives directly across the street from me, and they're here to speak on behalf of the request. The reason for the request is, in my mind, because the lot is so narrow and the house is put on that lot. I understand that over the years, a number of those lots were twice the size, and over the years, in the mid-century, they were made into two lots or whatever. One of the things I'd like to point out is in the adjoining lot, even though it is 1 foot from the lot line, it is within our fence that we have put up in accordance with the property requirements. And the question that you had about the size of the lot, we went with a 13-foot carport, number one, to also allow easier access to the side entrance, and to make it easy access to our rear lot, and to make it much easier to move the trash cans in and out on Monday night, which if it was as suggested in the alternate resolution, I would have to take the car out of the carport to move the trash cans on, which it would be problematic, but whatever. Also, the design and size is intended to flow with the roof line of the home. I think you see in the drawings, the roof line of the home is extenuated by the carport, and it does not detract at all from the curb appeal. In fact, without the carport, the house looks like it's pretty much up on a hill. This would give the visual effect of lowering the whole house appearance from the curb. There was a comment about storm runoff water issues, and we intend to mitigate any of that runoff issues by putting 6-inch half-round oversized gutters on the carport that match the 6-inch half-round oversized gutters that we have on the house. I urge the board to take favorable action on my application as submitted, and be happy to address any questions and entertain my guests to talk on my behalf.
Questions of...
I do have a question. The horizontal fence, is that on the property line, or is that 1 foot off?
The horizontal fence?
The fence that you have right now?
Fence that we have right now is on the property line.
On the property line. Is that going to stay?
Yes.
So you're going to have 1 foot between the
posts that go.
Only posts. There's nothing other physical
No
barrier.
side construction at all. It's just the roof and the
Okay.
the eave that'll be enclosed with the matching siding.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Mr. Russell?
You were mentioning the guttering. Are you going to keep the gutter on the upper roof?
Yes.
And then separately gutter the carport roof?
Yes.
So that the guttering for the carport will only be handling runoff of the carport? Thank you.
Any further questions?
Madam Chair, the stoop for the side entrance is concrete, brick, and how tall is it?
I would say approximately 2 feet tall,
Okay.
and it extends 3 feet with the step.
That makes it necessary to have the car even further away from the house because of this elevated stoop, which pushes the carport further toward the property line. And Madam Chair, I know there's a requirement for a pool to be enclosed in I think it's a 6-foot fence. But
6 foot minimum, 7 foot maximum.
yours comes further forward than it has to.
Edge of the front edge of the house.
But I presume you have a gate on the backside.
Yes. The gate is 5 foot. The gate is 5 foot tall.
And, Madam Chair, this is 47.4 feet wide, about, 13, a little more than 13 feet narrower than the code really allows. It's really significantly substandard in width. And I was looking at, there was another photograph, an aerial photograph of the neighborhood. Could we go to that, Ms. Williams?
She's gone.
Oh.
She stepped away.
There was an aerial photograph. Thank you, Mr. Hogan. And there was a house that was 2 doors down, I think, that had a garage that obviously is close on the right-hand side. Thank you. Oh, that's a prior case, though.
No, that's
This one. Okay. Yeah, there's that house 2 doors to the
to the left.
to your left.
There's a garage.
There's a garage.
Seems to be right on the property line.
That's what it looks like. And then this house to your right is, that looks like, it doesn't look like they use it, but is that a carport or a patio or something on the side of their house?
On the left side of their house?
Yes.
That's a solarium.
A solarium, okay. The other house has a garage in the back, the one immediately, but it looks like it's not, it's not a, to me, it doesn't appear that your request is really out of order, or out of line, or excessive. I understand staff's position with respect to the 1 foot, but
I have a question. What were the thoughts in terms, you said that you went back and forth with the staff, and the staff is recommending 5 foot, you're requesting 1 foot. What were the alternatives that were discussed, and what is your position with regard to anything less than the 1 foot?
Yeah, well, there wasn't any question. One of the things that the original application did not have a back elevation, so I supplied a back elevation to it. And the reason for the 13 feet wide is, and I compared it with the staff analysis that a normal parking space is 8.5, and so they're going to grant 9. Well, with that stoop there, and with the grade that the fence is, it would be very difficult to get in and out of the car if it was pulled into a 9-foot carport.
And if you were to do an 11 foot? I mean, could you do less than, I'm just trying to see if there's a number that still addresses your concerns, or if you ever looked at a number less than the 1 foot.
Well, the 13 foot also deals with the angle of the roof line, too. That being at 13 feet, it would make the roof line at the same angle as the house roof, too. So from an appearance standpoint, it would flow much better.
I guess I'm thinking you can make the pitch of the house, whether it's 13 or 9 or 11, you can make that pitch flow with the house's roof anyway. Just, you have to build it a little bit differently. Because we're worried about, or what we have to deal with, is that setback. And it does concern me a little bit that it's so close to the property line.
Well, one thing that we thought of is that it was inside the fence line, too, because the fence line is there, and it's 7-foot fence line. It's not going to be and the carport itself won't be enclosed, so it's the appearance of the posts supporting the roof, in our view, would be minimal as far as distracting at all from the curb appeal or curb view of the house.
So as you envision it, will the roof line then go to where the fence is? So will it look like it's attached to the fence? I mean, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, over the fence. It'll come down over higher than the fence. It will be higher than the fence.
But it won't encroach any further than the fence, because you said
No, it'll be
it has to be
within
one,
a foot of the fence.
has to be a foot within, foot closer of that.
Correct.
Okay. Let me hear from your neighbors.
Okay.
And then we'll have some more discussion, I think. Let's start with Mr. Fuchs. Stephen Fuchs at 2240 North Lexington Street.
Good evening.
Good evening.
2240 North Lexington Street is right across from Tom and Chris's house. I look at them every day.
So you'll be looking at this construction?
I will be looking at them every day, and I've actually reviewed his plans. Actually, I'm an artist. My last show was at the American Institute of Architects. I have no problem with the aesthetics of his plan, no problem at all. I have no problem in looking at it every day. The other thing he won't tell you, but I will, the board, the staff was interested or concerned about what was best for the neighborhood. I will tell you that 2223, for many, many years, was the worst house in North Arlington. It was full of literally drug addicts, drug dealers, and criminals. Before Tom and Chris bought it, it was crumbling, melandering. It was finally foreclosed on. It was empty for about a year. They bought it on a short sale. They had to completely gut the house because no one had cleaned the gutters for like 2.5 years. It was full of mold. Tom and Chris, through a lot of money and care, have literally taken the blighted house, the worst house on North Lexington, and brought it back to life. So I'm not saying that you should necessarily go with this plan, but you should definitely consider that because I think he deserves a medal, really, for doing that. And then the last thing is, I will admit, a foot is close. A foot is really close. And if it was a closed structure, I'd be concerned too, but it's open. It's open. It's a carport. And, you know, I like carports. It reminds me of 1950s, 1960s, before everybody built Wagnerian garages. I think it's a good plan, and I think you should rule in his favor.
Thank you, Mr. Fuchs. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. You say if it was enclosed, you might think differently. But from your view, won't it look enclosed because you've already got the fence and you've got the roof line? No difference in your view?
My view is not all that different from this photograph because the houses are offset, and I'm not right across from him. I'm kind of like catty corner. So I will probably have just about this view.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Russo. Thank you, Mr. Fuchs. That does make it harder.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to come and say that the neighborhood was very excited to have Tom and Chris join our neighborhood. As Steve mentioned, well, the history of the neighborhood for the last 20 years would be a good movie, be R-rated. So Tom and Chris being with us and the incredible amount of work that they have had to do to rejuvenate that house has been very impressive. And so we see their presence in the house and the improvements that have been done to the house as a real improvement and a real boon to the neighborhood. We have a very involved neighborhood. We have a neighborhood that meets together and plan parties together, and we enjoyed welcoming them and their guests to our group. So my wife and I, we've been shown how the carport will be done, and we are in favor of it and looking forward to it.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you very much. Any further questions of the applicant or the staff? I guess I do have one question of the applicant. You talked about the separate guttering. Is it, the guttering will be within that 1 foot as well, or it won't go any further? So it's actually, so the roof line will then actually be less than 1 foot because you've got to have room for that gutter within that 1 foot.
Gutter will have to be within that 1 foot too. That's what I've been, you know, the people that have helped me make the drawings and so forth said that would have to be that way.
Okay, just wanted to make sure on the record that we were clear with that there's not any way that that would go over the 1 foot, which it couldn't anyway, because even if we adopt the alternative resolution, you have to build that within the 1 foot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Thoughts from the board?
Well, Madam Chair, let me make an effort to see where the rest of the board is by making a motion. Madam Chair, I would move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the alternative resolution, which would grant approval as advertised. So I would move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve special use permit case number V-10813-13-UP1, subject to the 5 conditions described on the alternative resolution.
For purposes of discussion, I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Smith and Ms. Craven.
Can I just ask that you were talking about as advertised as opposed to the other alternative, of which we have 2?
Right. Okay. The as advertised being the 1 foot.
Okay, I would just make a comment that I'm sympathetic to someone wanting to have their automobile covered, but I'm really torn because I think that the elevation of this house and the way the roof line for the carport is envisioned, it's going to be really tall as well as right up against the property line, much taller than it needs to be for its stated purpose. And that's just my concern.
It's really interesting because if you look at the drawings, the slope doesn't look the way it does when you look at the photograph, right? Yeah. And you look at the photograph and see how it comes down.
It's as tall as the car.
Yeah.
And that's a big car.
And Madam Chair, if I might, and I considered just exactly what you were talking about, Ms. Freshman. What I found persuasive, though, was the artist who said, I'm going to be looking at this, and I've looked at the drawings because I think it is going to be tall. It's not, because the house sits several feet taller than grade. So that will be tall, but it's not, the facade of it does not have, is not so great that it really takes up a lot of space, visual space. But it is tall. When I first looked at it, I said to myself, maybe a small motorhome might be able to fit in that height. Well, the SUV I don't know if it's a Tahoe or a Suburban, but it's a big SUV. I just I think 5 feet is a lot to ask, and you know, the effect of the fence is a walling kind of an effect, but it is open other than the pillars. But it will visually look kind of like there'll be a gap, a visual gap, but that will look like a kind of a wall. But I still didn't with the trees. There's a lot of substantial tree growth there, and that will kind of obscure it. The overhead photograph we have is taken probably in the spring because the trees are denuded. But I think with the foliage, it'll look more like this. It'll grow kind of into the become a part of that tree line. I guess I didn't see it as much of a 1 foot, 5 foot. I don't see really much I don't see much that the applicant can do to work around the stoop, unless he has a real short carport that doesn't go as back as the stoop. And what's the purpose of having the carport if you don't have the entrance protected also? So that's kind of where my head was at with it. And hearing the neighbors, and especially the artist across the street, say that visually he didn't have a problem with that, because the visual that you described, Ms. Freshman, was an issue that I had.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Russell.
I'd like to point out that the depth of this carport is 28 feet. And doing rough calculations based on this description of the side elevation, between the end of the house where the let's see, it'd be 2 feet less. There's about, I'm going to say 18 or 19 feet before you get to the stoop under the cover of the carport to place a car. So that tells me that the stoop does not drive the width of this carport, so that a foot or two could be taken off of it and still have it function for a good-sized car. A standard garage is 20 by 20 for a 2-car garage, so 20 foot of depth is, so.
It's deep. It's deep.
I'm not sure that 5, the staff has recommended 5. Staff tends to recommend 5 for their maximum recommended reduction of a side yard. But there's something between 1 and 5 that somebody might find.
And, yeah.
Also, if you even split the difference to 3 feet, then you would at least have solved the problem of moving trash cans to and fro, because certainly between a pillar and 3 feet to the fence, you could get Arlington's finest through there. So maybe there is something else but I'm still not persuaded.
And I guess 3 feet was what's been in my head, and I mean, because I really do think there should be some separation between the fence and the structure. And so I agree with the staff that the 1 foot that's being requested is visually and for the purposes of the code seems to be too close a request. But and having just done a fence, I know that 1 foot really isn't that much at all in terms of the distance, what it looks like and how that ends up being built. Having neighbors both trying to decide, we ended up with a foot of dead space between us, each giving 3 inches or 6 inches to get that foot. It's not very much. So that's where I'm troubled with the 1 foot request. But a 3 foot request would clearly separate it from the fence, which I guess is part of my concern, is I think there needs to be some separation from the fence. And that extra 2 feet would do it. So we have a motion before us.
So do we need to vote on the motion, or should I withdraw my second? Or do we do a substitute motion? I never remember these things.
I think any of those are appropriate. If we deny this, then the floor would be open to reconsider another motion, because we're denying the as advertised. And we do have 2 other resolutions in the packet that we can modify. So why don't we move to vote on the resolution, which was to adopt the alternative resolution as advertised. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Any abstain? Okay, so that motion fails 1 to 4. The chair would entertain another motion, if there's any.
Should make one for 3.
I will move an alternative resolution amending the approval of a 5-foot set yard to a 3-foot set yard. I don't know how to do that in a parliamentary way.
That's all you have to do.
Is that good enough? Okay. And that would be approving the special use permit case number V-10813-13-UP-1, subject to the 4 conditions.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Freshman and Mr. Russell. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Okay. And the motion, any opposed? I heard all 5 voices. That's the problem. Hearing none, the alternative motion granting a 3-foot setback has been approved.
Okay. Our next case tonight is V-10815-13, or sorry, -14-13-UP-1. So that should be V-10814-13-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Carol Weatherly to permit a setback of 5.7 feet to the eave and 6 feet to the wall from the left side property line instead of 16 feet as required. But also an aggregate side yard of 14.6 feet instead of 24 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new 1-story left side garage addition. This is in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 6818 31st Street North.
And the recommendation is to adopt the attached alternative resolution approving a left side yard setback of 8 feet to the eave and 9 feet to the wall of the new garage addition instead of 5.7 feet to the eave and 6 feet to the wall as requested. It is our garage night. Okay. Any questions of staff?
Yes. I assume that you've discussed this alternative number with the applicant?
Believe we did. With
Should I wait and ask
Mr. Shell.
the applicant what they think of it? Is it wide enough for a garage that way? Is there width?
From a staff point of view, it's wide enough, but they would lose that area to the right of it where there's a door, so they want to have an entrance that goes through where they can access the kitchen, the garage, and the rear yard.
Yes.
They would lose that, but if they bumped it back, they could possibly set it up so it's kind of on the side, and you go into the side instead of into the front of the garage, and that's the way I was thinking.
Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Russell.
I'd like to ask a question of staff, and it's only because I'm lazy. The right side is 8.9 feet, and in their proposal, 8.9 feet, and the left side would be 6. If the right side was 10, the left side could be 8, right? It's 8 and 10. We have a new ordinance, so I'm just not.
You would need 10 and 14 actually, because this is R10.
Because of the aggregate.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
get that.
Okay.
Okay, that helps a lot.
I was thinking 8 and 10 too. 14 and 10.
Any further questions of staff? If not, I don't know, Ms. Weatherly's present. I think we have a speaker slip from Mr. Shell as the architect as well. So if you want to both come forward. We have Carol Weatherly and John Shell.
Yes, Mr. Shell is providing letters from 7 of my neighbors.
Thank you.
The individual whose wooden fence is on the right-hand side as you look at the picture, my backdoor neighbors, my left neighbors, across the street neighbors.
Thanks.
Thanks.
How that matches.
So I have lived in Arlington County since 1981.
Oh, yeah.
And in
that's
this
in the same
residence since February 2000, and have added a bathroom upstairs. Cape Cods, as you well know, have no bathrooms, so the same architect and the builder will be doing the work for this construction. My intent is to age in place. I like Arlington. I got bit by Potomac fever, and work with the government, and will always be interested in politics somehow, some way. I have really an intent to expand the kitchen and the bathroom, particularly the bathroom, to make it wheelchair accessible, so that I could, in fact, or if my mother were to stay with me, who's legally blind, there would be a place for her to be able to be a little bit more safe and more comfortable. The location of the garage on the side is important on that side to me, because that is where my kitchen is. It's also the entrance to my basement, consistent with the current structure of the home. I do want to have a separate entrance to the garage and the downstairs basement, independent of the entrance up to the house itself, so that if in fact the downstairs is habited by another individual, we would have privacy and security. Obviously, the benefit of a garage is you're not exposed to the weather. You don't have to go out there and scrape the ice and snow off of your automobile. I guess I would just add 2 elements related to the size of the lot. It's a little bit smaller, 9,400 versus 10,000 in R10. In addition, the lot itself is only 64 rather than 80 feet. On the other side of what we're not looking at, what we're looking at is a shared driveway. So that 8.9 that we were discussing really is not available. Right picture here is of the side of the house where the garage would be. And roughly where you see the hydrangea is where that fence pushes out. That's roughly the 5.5 to 6 feet that would be available on that side between my property and my neighbor's property that has that fence that goes along the entire side between my lot and hers. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I think one question is, have you talked to the staff about the number that they're proposing versus what you are seeking, and what are your thoughts to that?
I believe John spoke to them. I'm more interested in just being able to have that access use of the stairwell going up and down attached to the house, rather than pushing something to the back part of the lot. The width of the garage is as wide as I could get it. It's just for storage space, if you will, rather than anything else.
And is there room to make it longer, Mr. Schnell? Maybe you could answer that question.
I addressed.
Yeah.
Carol probably isn't aware of the last suggestion that Drew sent over, and his idea was to move the garage even further back into the property and to have a side door even with the existing side wall of the house, and in that way accomplish a separate entrance into the house from the garage.
There's some complications with that, and it really impacts what's going on in the kitchen above. It essentially would make the functioning of the kitchen, it would make it very difficult to have the kitchen we were hoping to have. The placement of the garage back into the property is really to try to make its effect, the effect of it being close to the property line, not as apparent, so that for people going by, it's not going to be very visible, and that the house will pretty much stand alone as it does now, and that the garage will set down, and it also is lower. You can probably tell on the front elevations that the garage actually sits down on the property behind the house. So both of these things we're trying to lessen the impact of the placement of the garage while still getting the use that we're looking for.
Okay. Any further questions for either the applicant or her representative?
Madam Chair, and maybe Mr. Noxon can answer this. Looking, or I don't, maybe Mr. Shell, because I'm looking at his drawing. Actually, I'm looking at one of 6, the first floor plan. It looks like the side yard is not, that the lines aren't parallel. Does it diverge? Does that side yard diverge against the lot?
Yes, actually, if you look at the plat, the rear portion of that garage is half a foot further.
Yeah, okay. All right. And is that the siding on the house, or is the lot, I mean, are the lines parallel? Let's see here, what does it say, 64.6 and 65.61. So no, the lot is actually
Slightly
wider
off
at the back than it is at the front. Gotcha. Okay.
Question of the applicant? Ms. Espinoza?
Yes.
Can I ask a question of applicant, please? Sorry. So aging in place, how do you, assuming that someone had some kind of a handicap, how do you get from the garage to the main part of the house? There's only stairs. I don't see any flat, no steps because of the elevation difference. Am I missing something here?
No, I'm not proposing that the garage itself be associated with handicap. It's mostly for the bathroom itself.
I see.
So-
My suggestion, because my elderly mother lives with us, is that the most elevation we have is 2 stairs, and that's getting to be really, really difficult for her, just 2.
Are they the wide ones as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just that now I really wish we'd have thought of something else in those. And you don't have to use it very often, but it's a difficulty.
Right. Out of an elevator at one point, and I thought that might be a little excessive.
Exactly.
I think they're 8
Yes.
or 10 grand or something
Right.
like that.
Well, and we do have one of those stair step elevators from the first floor to the second floor, and she's not supposed to be using those stairs, but since I know she does, we have that. So that takes care of that problem, but from the outside in, just difficulty.
Actually, the steps inside the house are extremely narrow and steep. So they all have railings, but my mother did go down the step on her rear end, bump, not falling, but to be careful, so she didn't.
So going back to the last case you were here for that, you're proposing a 13.3 garage at the back end, and I'm just trying to, is there a way to narrow that garage to bring in the encroachment?
It could be done. It could be done.
And you'd still be able to get your car in? Because, I mean, I would never want to approve a garage that doesn't allow you to get your car in.
Thank you.
The minimum width for a garage, typically you would allow 6 foot 8 inches for the width of a car. an absolute minimum of 30 inches on either side of the car, which probably doesn't allow the door to swing all the way out, but, and then 8 inches for the thickness of the walls, so that gives us 12'4", I guess. So that's sort of like what I would call an absolute minimum for a garage width, based on standards that we use.
So we could, we have almost a foot over that in terms of this request.
That's correct. It's 13.4 right now, which is just for that added bit of extra comfort and not to be banging the door against the wall when you get out of the car.
Well, there was also discussion of storage. In terms of storage, the length of the garage, can it be extended to accommodate storage as opposed to the width?
Well, the width is really more for the operation of the doors. We have added some space, as you can see, at the front end of the garage for storage, and we also plan on using the rafter, the attic area, so to speak. So I'm not sure that if we have much less than what we show on the application, that there's going to be an opportunity for any storage there. It'd be pretty difficult to open the doors.
I might add that the neighbor on the side that does have that fence and is most affected by this, we had extensive conversations about it because I realized that she would be the individual who would at least see roof line, and she's not a practicing architect, but has studied it, and so she actually came over into the yard and recognizes that the roof itself, the slope, is going to be moving low into the yard. So it's, from her perspective, she can see those things when you see drawings, while the rest of us, but she has expressed that she's comfortable with that and has no issues and intends to keep that fence up, which is as high as I believe Arlington County allows, whatever height that is.
Is she one of the people in support?
She is.
in writing?
She signed the notice that came from the county. So her name is Janet Flynn, and she's got the 6808 large property to my west.
This one.
Yeah, I saw something with her name on it.
And that's, as you can tell, it's pretty well tree lined. And in fact, in the front of the house, there's a large oak along that fence line as well. So unless you're coming from Westmoreland, or even from Westmoreland, you might not even see.
Madam Chair, so this constitutes her approval, this
It
public
does.
notice with her signature on it?
It does.
And you've spoken with her?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Several times. And I think she actually called the county office as well.
Madam Chairman, do we have any speakers?
Oh, I think we do. Let me see. No, just Mr. Schnell.
Okay. If I may, I'm compelled by the narrowness of this lot. This is an R10 lot. It's slightly below, it's 600 square feet below the requirement to create an R10 lot, which is not very much difference, but it's a very, very deep lot as a result. Because it is so very narrow, it is 16 feet narrower than you could plat at this time. And so for me, the aggregate requirement that we have in the ordinance for the R10 for this lot is useless. I don't, it's not relevant to me. So when I look at the request, we're looking at one non-conforming side yard that's 9 feet. That it would be required to be 8 at a minimum, and 10 in a kind of a normal situation. So it's only 1 foot and 1/10 off. And the other side is only a reduction to 6. I just really don't really have much of a problem with the request for this modest 1-story garage addition to an existing house in quite a non-conforming situation.
So is that is that the prelude to a motion, Mr. Russell?
Well, I can make one. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt a resolution granting use permit V1081413 UP-1 for a setback of 5.7 feet to the eave and 6 feet to the wall from the left side property line instead of 16 feet as required, and an aggregate side yard of 14.6 feet instead of 24 feet as required, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Noxon.
Okay, our next case tonight is V-10815-13-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Potomac Custom Builders, LC, to permit a setback of 7.8 feet to the projecting bay and 9.4 feet to the wall of a new home from the right side property line instead of 10 feet as required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 17.1 feet instead of 18 feet is required. It's for the construction of a new 2-story detached single-family home with a right side projecting bay. This is in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 1324 North Stafford Street.
And the recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution denying the subject use permit. Any questions of staff?
Question. Can I just confirm that a denial, the practical effect of a denial is to tear the house down?
Or cut one of the walls off and reconstruct it.
Okay.
So to clarify the record, this is a house that has been built already, and now they're seeking a use permit. Okay. No further questions of staff. Is someone representing Potomac Custom Builders present? And could you fill out a speaker slip? Because even though you're the applicant, since it's an LC, I'd like to have your name for the record.
Sure, will do. My name is Scott Harlan. I'm one of the owners of Potomac Custom Builders, and thank you for hearing this case tonight. I basically made a mistake in the placement of the house. It was placed about a little under a foot from where, or a little over a foot from where it was supposed to be placed. The size of the house is no different than than what was approved. Let me give you this handout. If you can see the red lines on the drawing, that is where the originally approved plan was and where the house should have been placed. When I was in the field, I measured something wrong and didn't discover it until we did a wall check plat and turned it into the county, and they informed me that the placement was incorrect. As you can see, the house to the right of it, the 2-story single-family house, the house now is actually 1 foot further away from that house, and closer to the house to the left of it, which is also a house we are building. So any negative effects are against the house we're building now. The second page of this is a letter from the owner of the house to the right of it supporting my request. And yes, that's about all there is to say about it. Glad to answer any questions.
Go back to the other picture since this one doesn't help us at all.
That box bay on the side is a seat bay, which is allowed to project up to 1'6", is that right, Mr. Noxon? Into the side yard setbacks. It was part of the original plan.
So removal of that won't bring you into compliance?
No.
Madam Chairman?
Mr. Russell?
So, Scott, you'd have to tear the wall down in order to correct this, right? Or something very dramatic. It's
something very dramatic would have to be done to correct it.
Move it over, yeah.
Plat or replat is the house next door built already, or if you own it?
Excuse me?
Is the other house on the other side built?
It's right now.
To the right or to the left?
To the right.
That's an old existing house, yeah.
But didn't you say you were building a house?
The house to the left, the one where this house moved towards.
See the tie back.
Oh, it moved towards that one. I thought it said it.
It moved further away from my neighbor's house that I have the letter from.
And the one. Yeah, I was going to
So
say.
actually, the aggregate side yards to the body of the house meet the 18 feet requirement.
I think our information indicates the opposite. That's what's confusing.
Am I
us.
correct about that?
I guess that's where I was confused.
Your walls would meet the aggregate, but you have the projection of that box bay into that further.
No, what we're talking about, Drew, is which side are we asking to grant the variance from?
Yeah,
On the right side.
The right side, which means, according to the information we've gotten, is that you're closer to the older house than you should have been. That the red line on this is showing closer to your neighbor than to your other house.
Right, and I thought I heard him say when you first spoke that the new house, the other house got the benefit because you were further away from that.
I believe the original plat, Drew, do we happen to have that here? I believe the original approved plat showed a 8-point-something foot right side yard.
I think we do have that.
I think all we have is the wall check. I don't think we have the approved plat in the packet. So if it were the left side, you would still have an issue. If it's on the left side, then you would have that window well that also projects too close as well. So either side would have been non-conforming, because you have to meet that 10 foot on one of the two sides.
Correct. That's where
Oh, okay.
I had, it was drawn up as 8 and 10. That's what was the intent was. And when it was mismeasured, now we have 9-point-something and 9-point-something.
9.3 and 9.4.
Right.
It's not.
So now he's non-conforming on both sides? No, because he only needed to be
He's got 8 on one.
8 on one.
One side 10, one side 8.
He's more in the center of his lot
Right.
than he intended to be.
Correct.
To meet the ordinance, which the ordinance provides that.
So I've been building here for 25 some years and have never had to come to you guys for a side yard mistake like this. And I was proud of that. Now I'm kind of embarrassed that I made this mistake.
So the wall check was just done at the wrong point in the process?
No, the wall check has to be approved to get the close-in inspection, correct? And so before I got my close-in inspection, I put the wall check in, and it came back as a negative.
And usually the wall check is performed directly after the foundation walls are poured. So, it can be corrected if there is an issue that comes up when you just have a foundation wall to deal with, not an entire side of the home that's been framed.
Yet there's not a requirement for a wall check survey at that point? The requirement isn't until later in the process?
There is a requirement.
The wall check is required prior to framing inspection, prior to framing.
So that was my question. Was there a wall check done prior to framing?
I'm not exactly sure the date that the wall check was done, but I took it to the county right before my framing, I needed my framing inspection.
So
The
not,
framing was done.
The framing was done.
And then you were seeking an
We
inspection of it.
We stopped working on it as soon as we found out there was a mistake.
Gotcha.
And has it been is it in this condition and you stopped at that point?
Everything except for the siding. We wanted to get it at least dry so the elements wouldn't hurt it.
Madam Chairman, I'd ask the staff, do we have the language from the ordinance about the requirement for the wall check? Do you have, I don't want to waste time. So.
Let's see.
The wall check is a letter that's basically a determination. The zoning administrator signed. I believe it was Susan who did the first one. But generally what happens is we ask that the wall check is submitted prior to framing at all. We ask for the wall check at foundation. So that if something like this happens, you have the option of either pouring a second foundation within the first one, building on that, or just shifting your wall.
So that means there was an oops followed by a bad timing.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
Do we
Russell?
have any speakers?
No.
This is terribly unfortunate, but I don't see for this less than a foot that I could support having this house dramatically altered where the board is in the position of being able to grant a use permit, not a variance, to take care of this error that kind of like making it, well, I won't compare what it's compared to.
But 0.6, right? I mean,
The applicant said that it's less than a foot.
well, I mean, if you look at it in terms of bringing him in compliance, if he was at 10 foot and he's built it at 9.6 or 9.4, isn't that just a little over half a foot, right?
Mr. Russell, I absolutely agree with you, but I also am extremely uncomfortable with, the way this has proceeded. And so I mean, I agree that the cure may be worse than the disease, but at least I'd like to state my objection.
Cheryl, can we see the top view now that I have it situated? Just want to see how close this is to the neighbors.
That's the old home that was demolished.
Yeah, but the house on the right is going to give me an idea where that, did they build two houses on this one lot, or are they?
Exactly.
So there's two houses on this lot, and then,
If you look at the handout that Mr. Harlan passed out, you can see there's a plat showing 34.9 feet to that right side, so it does show where the house placed.
no, but I just wanted to see visually how close that, where on the lot the next house was located. Because I guess for me, if it were located further to the left, so that it was even closer to the house that's mistakenly built, it would cause me more concern, whereas it looks like it is further on its lot away from his property. Is that correct? I mean, we don't have that plot.
Pretty sure that's correct.
It's closer
Yeah,
to
this one.
the neighboring property on the left.
No, but I'm saying, but the neighboring property's not built close to that side property line. So there's still a distance between the error and the other property
It is on 2 lots.
until it's redeveloped. Yeah. But that one's going to cause a problem in any event because of the odd shape of that lot. And that'll be a corner on that other corner, right? Yeah.
We wouldn't treat it as a corner because it backs up to a limited access highway, so they could get as close as 8 feet on that right side.
That's Route 66.
535 and 536 are probably buildable lots technically, like the lots that were freed up. Actually, he uses 2 each, but I can't tell how wide 536 is.
It's 25 feet.
25 feet? Well, that's your house on Barton Street. I happen to like.
Even less, I
I
think.
think 536 is, what, 25 feet wide? You're not going to get...
536 is 25.
35 is a decent lot.
Not saying it hasn't been done, but...
Madam Chairman, I would say that with regard to the issue of when a wall check plat is done, is something that the staff can work on zoning in cooperation with Inspection Services Division to put in a better system to catch them. I think that it's better than it used to be, and I'm surprised we don't see more of them, because it used to be it used to be bad. But once in a while, something's going to happen. An inspector doesn't have the training or the time or something. But there might be a way to get a system set up to manage this better from a staff perspective. I come from the position that I agree with Ms. Freshman, this is really bad, but what are we going to do? And if we were asked to approve this kind of a use permit before construction, to have 9.3 and 9.4 instead of 8 and 10, perhaps, I wouldn't want to say that we would, but perhaps we would approve that because for some reason somebody wanted to center their house in the middle of the lot. It's my thought.
Madam Chair, my concern initially was, when I read the report before tonight, was that there was some effort by the builder to rush through and minimize the need to wait. I don't hear that from this builder. It sounds more like an oops, and also not an. It is a professional builder, though, where oops is really not the kind of thing that I want to see happen, or I'm sure it doesn't happen commonly. But I was put off when I read the staff report that said that the wall check was done after the house had been framed, and that was really bad. And I know waiting for inspectors to come is the worst thing that builders have to do, is wait for that inspection to close in a wall. The electrical inspection, for example, or the plumbing inspection. But it's critical to do that because you run into these problems. And I'm going back to Sycamore now. You're familiar with Sycamore about,
Oh, yes.
was that, Norma, about 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very familiar with it.
And that was 6 inches.
Mhm.
That was 6 inches. That's all it was. And that was in the Washington Post, and people were lined up out the door. I mean, and we must have spent, I don't know how many hours on that case over the course of several months. And he was ordered to take a saw to the rafters, to the eaves, and take off part of that, and then take off. He had stone siding to take off the stone to get within, to minimize the encroachment, and it was costly. And eventually, he lost the house.
Mhm.
But I was looking at the filing fee, which was considerably more than the usually we say they're about $350, $400, and this one is $4,400.
It's definitely punitive, but hey, I made a mistake.
Which was that's an expensive oops.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's
Me.
obviously it's
No
delayed.
one's more sorry than me.
No, I can imagine. It's delayed the. And I don't know whether you have a contract on the house already or not, but or whether it's being built for somebody. And but it's a major problem. It's a major problem. The only thing that gives me any comfort is the fact that you aren't here often with issues, either seeking to get the most out of a lot or to come in with an accident. So I, kind of like Mr. Russell said, that if you were coming in with a clean slate and you wanted to encroach 6 inches on one side, and center the house, I wouldn't have a problem with that whatsoever. It would have been one of those 30-second cases from my point of view, but I wish that the audience were filled to hear this, because you just can't, as a professional builder, make these kinds of errors and expect that it's going to be an easy mea culpa and pay the filing fee and move on.
Well, I understand.
I don't see an easy way around it, though. I don't see a way to shave. I'm not encouraged that more, when you say, tie wrap could have, you could wait. It didn't have to be sided, could have minimized, but I understand the need to want to close it up, but it is closed when you put the wrap on the house, but.
Can I ask one question? Did you try to contact the current owner of the house to the right?
I've just had many discussions with him.
Mm-hmm. And he didn't submit anything for or against?
The letter's in.
That's the letter from him? Okay, that's not the one, okay. So I was confused.
Terry Hughes.
Right here.
Yeah.
In that text,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I saw, that was my, Madam Chair, when I saw the staff report, this is the only thing that got you out of that problem, too.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody ready to make a motion?
Madam Chairman.
Mr. Russell.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt a resolution approving use permit V1081513 UP1 as advertised, subject to the conditions in the resolution.
Second.
I'm going to let Ms. Craven have the second. Thank you, Mr. Russell and Ms. Craven. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
And I'm going to abstain, so.
311.
But the motion carries 311.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. And if I can get the speaker slip, I'll just, okay, yeah, great.
Okay, this is our final case for tonight. It's case number V-10816-13-VA-1. This is a variance request by Stephen and Miriam Krieger to permit a total lot coverage of 45% instead of 43% as required, and to permit a setback of 0.6 feet to the eave, 1.6 feet to the wall of a new 2 1/2 story addition, and 2.5 feet to the eave and 3.6 feet to the porch base from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required. So an aggregate side yard of 11.1 feet instead of 18 feet is required. Also 11.1 feet to the porch steps, 11.6 feet to the porch eave, and 13.1 feet to the porch base. And then also 19.7 feet to the eave and 22.1 feet to the wall of a new 2 1/2 story addition from the North Wayne Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new 2 1/2 story left side addition with a garage, a new 1 1/2 story addition above the existing main building footprint, and also an expanded basement, and a reconstructed covered front porch with steps and new driveway. It's in the RA 8-18 zoning district, premises known as 1822 North Wayne Street.
Thank you. And the recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution to withdraw the variance for lot coverage, but to approve the variance for modification of the right side and front setbacks. And for the record, I believe this is the case where the change in the zoning ordinances works to the favor of the applicant, hence the revision of the request. And there was some reference earlier tonight that we have a new zoning ordinance. For the record, the new ordinance came into effect on July 1st, but apparently there was something that was not carried forward, or we believe may have been inadvertent, but it does change the actual facts because the ordinance is written in a way which is to a benefit of the applicant at this time. Any questions of staff?
Yes, I'm sorry, I just don't, I've read this and read this. So the use permit that was advertised and approved in error, exactly what was the error?
If you look under the ordinance requirements, the second statement talks about the Board of Zoning Appeals may approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements for structures on lots in the R20, R10, R8, R6, R5, and R27 district. This is in the RA 8-18 district, which is an apartment dwelling district, so they cannot succumb to the use permit.
Gotcha. Okay. Which is why it's a variance as opposed to a use permit. I see. So this is basically the same thing that was approved last September, except as a variance instead of as a use permit?
No, there is quite a bit of difference. The one approved...
Still don't remember this.
The one approved before was just to underpin and drop down a basement. They wanted to expand a full basement below the existing structure, but this is to completely alter it, build up above, build to the left. So significant alterations going on to the existing home. And
comes back to me.
Questions of staff?
Yeah, let me just, for the record. So what was not carried over was was old Section 31, subsection A6, saying that if you build a single family in an RA, you meet the R6 coverage requirements.
That's correct. It said the R6, what did it say, as regulated?
It says the R6 requirements. But then
District
when you go
regulations.
to
All of them. Got
But
it.
then when you go to the page in the new reformatted ordinance on the RA 818, you get the 6,000 square feet for the single family, the 35-foot height. But down below, it says you go to, what's the section 3.2 for coverage. When you go to 3.2 for coverage, the old sentence is there, that says that anything in RA is 56%. So what has to happen is on the RA 818 page, coverage has to be added for single-family dwellings.
In each one of the RA districts.
Right, in each RA district, coverage has to be added. Either that, or you have to go back to the 3.2 coverage section and put in the requirement for any single-family dwelling in an RA district has to meet the coverage requirement of that district.
So the old ordinance wasn't so bad after all.
No, the old ordinance wasn't bad at all, believe me. But anyway.
Wow.
Madam Chairman, let me ask another question. So, a lot of these variants, we get variances, or, I'm sorry, use permits, what are we doing?
We're doing a variance.
We do variances from, it's going to be this amount, it's going to be 3 feet from the line instead of 10 feet is required, but maybe in this instance, it's already way non-conforming. So that's one of the things we have to do when we look at these, is to figure out. So, you know, to have 3 feet instead of 10 feet is required is good for advertising, but it doesn't help us. It's actually 3 feet instead of 4 feet as presently. You see what I'm saying? So the variances are not that big. Is that why the staff is supporting them?
But we do realize that there is the hardship, and the hardship in this case is the placement of the structure because it was built so close to the property line, or, you know, maybe the property line shifted at one point, but it is very close. And what they're doing, really, they're trying their hardest to use the existing footprint and build up. They could build up by right without an eave, and they wouldn't need that. They can't build down below without structurally altering the foundation, so that's why they're asking for that request. They have a very minimal basement. So it's sort of different than a use permit when we're looking at placement modification based on, you know, the placement and compatibility of other structures around it. This is a hardship case.
Because of the placement of the existing.
Exactly.
I mean, what's funny about this case, I think, it just, when you just glance at it, look at it, it looks like a great big house as a result of severe variances, but it's not. It's the extension of existing nonconformities in order to accommodate, you know, new construction that the thing sat in the middle of the lot, you might not need any variances to do at all.
And this is
I'm really, really simplifying it, but that, because when I first looked at the picture of the house, I thought, oh my goodness, but I was reassured that it was just at first glance, what's RA, it's next to these townhouses and so forth. The context of it is sort of within scale of its neighbors, regardless of whether it's a single family or a town, you know, because of where it sits. But then digging deeper, the changes from or placement of walls from where they're already placed is not very much.
And if they scraped this lot and built a new house, they would still need to come to you for a variance because of the street width on Wayne Street. So this is an unbuildable lot otherwise. So really the only thing they can do is add to what they have.
So that's the other hardship factor, Mr. Noxon, in this lot?
That, and I would say third as well, the fact that they're an RA 8-18 district with a single-family home, and there are only 3 others anywhere nearby. They're treated differently than anything that's R6 that's surrounding them. And then also they can't build anymore. They can't build townhomes or anything like that because of the access issues, the fact that the street's not wide enough. When the townhome community was built next door, the Department of Environmental Services, as well as I think VDOT, would not allow them to provide access because there's, about a 12-foot retaining wall along Lee Highway, and they would not grant them a cut into that to turn into it. So they have a couple issues. They can't utilize the property as if it were an RA 8-18 district like those townhome communities have been able to.
Well, that seems to help with the high standard that we have to address in terms of variances. Is Steve or Miriam Krieger present? We've been talking all around your property. Why don't we give you a chance to come and talk to us about what you're proposing? Because as we said, when you first look at the packet and you look at your house, it's like, oh my gosh, that looks so big.
Yeah. Well, you guys seem to have a pretty good handle on it, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But as Mr. Noxon has explained, we're sort of confined a little bit, so we're doing the best that we can to work within the guidelines of the code and what's already there to do the best we can with the property. I'm not going to repeat what Mr. Noxon explained about the hardships, but I do want to point out that we do have support from, I think, eight neighbors in there that are the neighbors directly surrounding the property. The 1826, 1818 are the two on either side, and then the neighbors behind, the townhouses behind the property have all submitted letters as well. So people are sympathetic with us, and we've been working with them, showing them the plans, making sure they're comfortable with what we're doing, and everyone seems to think it's a reasonable thing to do and a vast improvement over what's there now.
Okay. Any further questions?
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution to withdraw the variance for lot coverage, but approve the variance V-10816-13-VA-2 for modification of the right side and front setbacks, subject to the conditions. 6 conditions.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Do we have, I have no speaker slips. Okay. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Good luck.
Thank you. Can I ask a clarification question about one of the conditions?
Mm-hmm.
When it's talking about keeping the foundation, I think it's the second condition here. Can the board provide any guidance as to what's required in terms of keeping the structure above the foundation?
Mr. Noxon, do you want to take that?
The condition number 2 is for the wall check or for the final survey once you get the walls up and once you get the entire project underway and you have everything closed in. You have to submit a survey to us showing that you're meeting all these setbacks. Now you're asking about keeping a wall that's there or removing it?
Well, the question I'm getting from builders, we've not hired a builder yet, we're just the owners, we haven't built houses before, this is our first time. The question we keep getting is, if you're allowed to encroach on the setback because it's already there, are we required to also keep the studs in the wall, or are we just required to sort of keep the foundation that's there or whatever's underground? I mean, there really isn't even a foundation in some parts because we're expanding the foundation to the area beneath the wall. That's the reason why we have the variance. So the builders are a little bit confused, and I'm certainly confused.
And which condition are you talking about?
It's the second condition.
I think what Mr. Noxon's saying and how I read that is at the point you build the foundation, pursuant to whatever you get, when you get the building permit, pursuant to what we've given in use permits, it can't go beyond what we've approved. So you can't have a setback that goes beyond what was advertised here.
Okay.
But as long as it's no further than that, you're good. You don't have to even use the existing, hopefully the wall check will come, that's exactly where those foundation lines are at, but that's what it's referring to.
So as long as the foundation is in the place that it's supposed to be, no one really cares whether it's the old foundation, the new stud, old stud.
Well, I believe you're building a new foundation anyway underneath for the basement, so you're dropping a foundation down below. But I think the question is about the existing structural members of the wall, right?
Well, yeah, there's two questions, I guess. One is the foundation beneath ground that's being sort of expanded over to what was approved tonight. And then the second question is, above the foundation on the ground, the walls, I guess.
Well, the foundation question is pretty easy because, of course, we've approved you to build a new foundation, so you wouldn't have to stay on the existing foundation because the point is that's why we gave you the variance. You can build it to the conditions of the variance that were granted. With regard to the studs, Mr. Noxon, do you want to take that?
I think the wall's a different issue because the request is to build up above the existing wall that's there. And zoning may have issues if you take down the wall.
There's nothing to build above.
Because that gets kind of murky into, is this a new house versus just additions?
Right, but if we're building a new foundation beneath the existing wall, I mean, is that sort of what we're required to do? I mean, because the foundation isn't currently beneath the wall that's on the ground, we're essentially putting a new foundation beneath the existing wall and then building above the existing wall. I suppose we could do that, but it might.
You've had that before. May I?
Yeah.
You remember the wall that was suspended in order to put a new foundation under it?
All right, let me get this straight, because I'm going to be the one that has to do this. All right, you got permission to build a new foundation under an existing wall.
That's correct.
And then you're going to build above that existing wall.
That's correct.
That's what you have to do.
Okay.
That's what you have to do.
How
Do
much-
not bring any plans in to zoning where that wall is gone. Don't do that.
Well, no, the zoning, the plans you see here show a wall there. It's not a question of whether the wall's going to be there or not.
Wall has to, that wall that's there today.
So the existing studs, in other words, would have to be used.
Even though they're 80 years old?
You should have requested differently.
It would have been helpful for you to ask that question while we were deliberating, because then we could have either moved. We could have instructed him if he needed to do a different variance to go back and make that application. I'm not saying
Madam Chairman, I may. This is a zoning administrator's issue and not ours.
Okay.
It may be that if he wants to do something different from what he applied for, that it needs to start over again.
Yes.
That the request, because what would normally be happening is you wouldn't be building a new foundation under an existing wall. But the requirement in the ordinance is that you are extending an existing wall up. So normally the foundation would stay and then the wall would stay, and then you'd build above that. Understand the situation you're asking for, but that results in a different part of the ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not for us to explain here in this. This is not within the purview of the Board of Zoning Appeals. It's something you need to deal with the staff and the zoning administrator. Because it's not anything that we can deal with based on what's been advertised for us to consider, is my opinion.
Well, and I guess my only point, Mr. Russell, would be, had he asked the question beforehand, we would have clarified that what he had sought was exactly what we've talked about and what we've approved. We would have clarified to you during the conversation that all we are approving is the foundation with the existing wall and building above the existing wall. And if you did want something different,
Well,
that's
that's
different.
exactly what we're doing. It's just a matter of, are we going to keep the existing wall or are we going to put in?
Yes.
If you say you're building above the existing wall,
Yeah. According to the conditions, that's what you're doing, and you would have to keep those studs. So, okay? Yeah.
I think staff may have looked at it differently too if he was removing that wall in total, building the new wall. Because the provision in the ordinance for building above that wall, basically you're just asking for an even encroachment, not the wall.
Right.
So there's a difference.
Because it goes to that question of the buildability of the lot and different issues that, as Mr. Russell said, are not an issue for what we approved. We approved this in part based on the analysis Mr. Russell said of where the existing walls and everything were.
Well, I didn't mean to insinuate that any plan would have had a different placement of the wall. That was never...
Yeah. No, we're just saying that what got approved is using those existing studs. That's condition.
And if I may, it's a different thing under the ordinance. That's what the issue is. It's if existing walls stay, then it's one thing, and that's what was advertised and what was before us to be considered. If it was to be tear it all down and build it back in the place, it's a whole different question under the ordinance. So that's where you need to spend time with the staff and the zoning administrator who interprets the ordinance. We just sit to grant variations from that when we're petitioned for that. So it's two different things. That's what the issue is with it when you ask that question. It's two different things. So you need to get together with them and see what you can work out.
The right side.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda would be the approval of the minutes of the June 13th board meeting.
I move approval of the minutes as written.
I actually had one addition.
Did you?
Well, only because I always have this question at the beginning of the meeting and I go blank every month. Can we add Ms. Williams' name to the minutes since she's here as also present?
Cheryl Williams. Bye, Miss Williams.
That way, next month I will actually, in future months as well, but since she does sit and she's also present, if we could make that addition. Ms. Craven, would you accept that amendment? And Ms. Fishman? Okay.
Absolutely.
We have a motion as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And the minutes have been approved as amended.
One question, what is a member?
A member?
It says member?
Oh, it does.
Where is that?
Charles.
And I are members.
Well, see, we could have remembered that.
That was a correction to the minutes you didn't make. So it stayed. We approved them. That's the
I
way
know.
that's-
I like being a member. I like being a member, a member
So much you
squared.
wanna say it
A member squared. That's a Scrivener's error.
Double member, super size.
Yeah.
That's what happens when it's this late.
We haven't adjourned, by the way.
Oh,
Yes.
I move to adjourn.
second.
Second.
Third.
Third.
Hey, we didn't have an appeal tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we're